You are listening to the Horse Radio Network, part of the Equine Network family.
This is episode 710 of the Dressage Radio Show, official podcast of the United States Dressage Federation on the Horse Radio Network, brought to you by Kentucky Performance Products. For this week's USDF episode, we've got Patty Mayer as an on-site reporter from the World Cup final in Omaha, and then a trainer tip from someone competing there, Anna Buffini.
This is Reese Koppler-Stanfield from Georgetown, Kentucky.
And this is Philip Parks from Rockwood, Ontario, and you're listening to the Dressage Radio Show.
Hi, Phil. How are you?
I'm noticing that you're from Georgetown, Kentucky again. That's good to hear. Yeah.
Yes, we're all safe and sound back. It is a difficult week down there and a week back. I'm not going to lie. Like it's tough. It's anybody that does it. The drive's really long. I mean, for me, it's 1,000 miles. So, and now I own 2 trailers. So it's like double the worry. I don't drive the camper back. I had a friend help me with that because I only have 1 truck. So that's also complicated. But no, it worked out really well. The horses came back on a semi. I brought back the camper, and my mom was very kind to fly down and help me get organized and
be your co-pilot.
She was my co-pilot. She helped me with Winston. My mom was great. She helped me. I'm not going to lie. My mom got after the camper. She was like, what can I do to help? And I was like, oh my gosh, it would really help to, help with the camper. She went at that thing with a toothbrush. It was unbelievable. I don't think that thing's been that clean since it was literally probably wasn't that clean when it was new. It was amazing. She was behind the cushions. She was so cute. She popped out and she's like, where are the horses? And I was like, I'm sorry, they just left. She didn't even know we loaded the horses.
Yeah.
But yeah, the horses were great. And it's nice to be home. We had a great time in Florida, but Kentucky in the spring is just the best. I will say the weather change of 45 degrees yesterday, the horses were a little tight today. Not gonna lie, they were a little tight.
Some challenges. Yeah, some challenges.
Yeah, some lunging. We did some lunging today. It was very cold and wet today. So the horses just weren't used to it. So I thankfully my indoor is really warm and toasty and it's closed up. And so we let them just have a little time. And, the big horses, they need to kind of keep working. So, and they have to travel and compete. So we give them a few days and then we go back to work. The young horses, they were having a party out in the field. I saw them around 2:00. We are careful actually introducing them back to grass. That's a big thing you have to be pretty careful with, but we have a pretty good system for that. So they all seem to be doing great. And it's just nice to be back and it's crazy. We're talking about the World Cup. I'm like you, I teach a lot of clinics. So my clinic season's starting. So it's all really good. It's nice to be back for sure.
Well, we got a great show today.
We do. We're going to talk about the World Cup. It's still going on, so we'll talk more about it again next week. But we've got a commercial break from Kentucky Performance Products, and Patty Mayer will get right into what she saw while she was in Omaha.
This Nutrition Minute is brought to you by Kentucky Performance Products, the company that simplifies your search for research-proven nutritional supplements at kppusa.com.
The horse that matters to you matters to Kentucky Performance Products. Researchers have confirmed that as horses age, they naturally become less sensitive to insulin and more susceptible to health problems caused by too much sugar in the diet. One way to reduce the sugar content in a horse's diet is to replace sugar-laden grains with a high-fat supplement. Fat is an extraordinary energy source. It is readily utilized by the horse and contains more than 2 times the calories of sugary grains. Equijewel Stabilized Rice Bran is an excellent fat supplement. It contains a balanced calcium to phosphorus ratio and won't cause mineral imbalances when added to the diet. Its all-natural ingredients are high in healthy fat and fiber. Best of all, Equijewel allows owners to easily replace the calories previously supplied by sugary grains. When you need to add healthy calories to your horse's diet, choose Equijewel. To learn more, visit Kentucky Performance Products at kppusa.com.
Well, tonight we are so happy to have back one of our favorite guests, FEI rider and trainer, Patty Mayer. Patty, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. It's been way too long, although not very long, but way too long anyway.
We love having you. And you literally just got home from the World Cup in Omaha. So we just want to give people kind of the timeline. We're recording on Thursday night. So you saw the Grand Prix. The freestyle is going to be tomorrow.
Correct. And I'm actually flying back for that, I think, depending on whether this sinus infection takes hold or not.
I love it. Well, can you tell everybody a little bit about the venue, a little bit about Omaha and what you saw the last couple of days while you were there?
Sure. So here was my goal, which I didn't quite achieve, but whatever. So my goal was to go on Tuesday, to be there all day Tuesday, to watch the warm-ups for all three sports. I love vaulting. I just think those people are magical and, better athletes than I could dream of being in my entire, imaginative existence. So I really wanted to see them warm up. A lot of them were working with borrowed horses because, cost a lot to fly horse in from Europe. So a lot of them were vaulting on American horses who they didn't know. So I really wanted to see how they dealt with, kind of new horses and that. So that was one. I wanted to see the jumpers because, again, it's magical. I have no idea how these people do that. And I wanted to see the dressage people warm up. For me, watching people who are that excellent school their horses in a show, in a kind of a buzzy show arena is so helpful because, I compete at Grand Prix, the three of us all do. To watch the level of detail that these people ride with was just jaw-dropping. It was totally fascinating. So shall we start with that and then move on from that?
That would be great. And tell people a little bit about why the warm-up is really cool at that venue in Omaha, because it's unique, especially for American horse shows, right?
Right. So back in the day, we used to show, I did the European winter circuit, in where you ride in places that they otherwise have conventions. You ride in convention centers. And I'll tell you, your horses react a little bit to having the audience right over their head. I mean, I've ridden in what used to be called the U.S. Air Arena just outside Washington, D.C. My horse about had a stroke. I mean, those venues are really buzzy. The lights are very different than outside. And in Vegas more than in Omaha, but in Omaha as well, the arenas are butt up against the railings that people are at. So things happen that horses aren't used to seeing, or that, our horses aren't used to seeing, because they're used to being puttering around outside and having plenty of room between them and the spectators. And a reminder, because we're all dressage people, everyone goes, shh, don't say anything while someone's riding. No. These are huge venues. People are getting popcorn. They had kids there who were there, on like a school trip watching in the front row. I mean, so these horses have to really focus inside the sandbox. And I'm going to tell you that every single one of them did. There was one jumper who had a moment, and we'll talk about that later because it was just one of those great horsemanship things that someone did. But so it's super important. They call it getting accustomed to the arena.
Familiarization.
Familiarization. So, but they not only familiarize their horses with the arena, the dressage people all got to really school. They got to really ride the way they want to school the horse the day before they compete. And for me, that was fascinating. Here's why. And by the way, I missed the first few rides because my flight was delayed, I forget, 10 or 11 hours. So I was supposed to arrive Monday night and instead arrived mid-morning on Tuesday. So that was a little nightmarish, but fine. So nightmarish in a horrifying way, but whatever. I got there, and the downside was there were no announcers telling you who was in the arena. And I'm going to tell you that one really pretty, slender, blonde girl with perfect posture looks just like the next really pretty, slender, blonde girl with perfect posture.
Yeah.
So with a ponytail. And, yes, they had bridle numbers, but there was nothing available to tell you which bridle number was who. So, I know who Isabel Vert is, and I know what she looks like, and I know what Stefan looks like, and I know what a few of the others look like. But I haven't seen a lot of them live, and some of them I've never even seen on video. And so I was pretty much, I know what Anna looks like. I don't know what the American looks like.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit sad because I didn't know who was doing what, but I can tell you what all of them did. Every single one of them spent rather a lot of time halting their horse, either from the trot or the canter or both, squaring their horse up, counting to 92, giving their horse a pat, moving around a little bit, getting the reins back, and then trotting off. And I mean, they squared their horses up every single time. So, so there was a halt if it wasn't perfect to begin with. They, one leg moved. The rider sat there sitting there. The horse stayed at attention in a nice, quiet way. The rider patted the horse on one side or the other, or on the butt or whatever, and moved off. Wow. And they repeated that again and again. The level of detail was extraordinary. These people ride, we ride a 3-meter corner in upper level. No, they're riding 2-meter corners. I mean, they are in those corners. They come out of those corners dead straight. They actually have a solid 4.5 to 5 meters straight down the rail before they get to that first letter. So it's 6 meters from the edge to the first letter, even with the horse's length.
Yes.
They have time before the first letter to do something like make sure the horse isn't just going sideways into the half pass on its own.
Right.
They all schooled, obviously they all schooled Piaffe Passage. And I'm going to tell you, because we should talk about this later, that the Piaffe and Passage just count so much. It's like nuts. So they all schooled Piaffe Passage, and they all schooled, because remember, they're going to ride without whips. They all schooled them by really activating their horses. And, so the hands don't move, the body doesn't move, but they will, if the horse starts dying on the vine a little bit, they'll give it a little kick. And most of those horses are just so hot. It's, they're all like, oh, okay, I'll be Piaffing on the spot for another 95 steps with my knees and my nose.
Yeah.
And so it was super interesting to watch the detail. And then also only a couple of people started out stretching. And again, they had kind of pre-warmed up outside before they came into the venue, but they had a fair amount of time in the venue, each of them. And so they might have stretched around. I'm sure they all walked their horses before, but when they came in, they went to work. And again, not like they were with a couple of exceptions, not like they were galloping around or, even doing it. No one did the whole test, but all of them did parts of tests. They all did 1 million center lines. And, even if they weren't going to do a pirouette, they're cantering up that center line in a shoulder forward, doing the change and maybe doing the pirouette the other direction. So that center line is so straight that the judge sees 2 front hooves and nothing else. So a lot of that, everyone practiced the rein back. So you'd think, at least everyone I saw. So you would think, gosh, by the time you get to Grand Prix, you can probably rein back 4 steps and trot off, 5 steps and trot off. And the answer is every one have schooled them.
Wow.
And
yeah, well, it's expensive.
And schooled it straight. Every single detail was dealt with in a way that's just, great horsemanship, great riding, great horsemanship, great horse training. And that was what I went to see. So I basically flew to see that because, I want to ride better. That's what I want to do. And to watch people who ride at that level is just, instructive, inspirational. And even if you don't agree with something, there was one person in particular, but a couple of people who rode harder than I personally would ride or would be comfortable riding. And, I'm a little bit of a wimp, right? I don't really care if their knees aren't in their nose for the Piaffe. But with that couple of exceptions, it was so soft. People were soft, people were consequential. Mm-hmm. People were fair to their horses, and people were so, so detailed. I trot around a warm-up arena kind of looking at the scenery thinking, oh, wow, maybe I'll go in and maybe there'll be like a rain shower. These people don't. They're thinking about every single muscle in that horse's body.
Yeah.
And how to get their brains in gear to do this. So I found that fabulous. And that's what I had gone to see.
Good.
Can we talk just a little bit about the vaulting and the jumping before we get on to the competition day?
Yeah.
That sounds great. Yeah.
So So the thing that's kind of sad to me is I don't like the way they sold the tickets to this, which was to get into the warm-up day, you had to buy the full set of tickets for each event. And I mean, for each event. So I had to buy the full set of tickets for vaulting, the full set of tickets for dressage, the full set of tickets for jumping, which is not inexpensive.
No.
And, but there was no one there. Like, it's not like, wow, we're really worried that it's going to be oversold. There were more people there watching dressage warm up than anything else.
Interesting.
The jumpers were great. First of all, so what they did is they set up kind of a small course. I don't know. It's probably 4.5 to 5 foot fences. Whatever.
Whatever.
And they had all warmed up, and you could see them jumping in the trade show area. So they were warming up in the trade show area, and then they'd come into the arena, and that's fun. And they each had 90 seconds to do whatever they wanted in the arena, whatever. So some people just hacked along with their horses' necks low, or just hacked along with their noses out and gave them a big pat left. I would say 75% of the people jumped a course.
Oh wow!
Only one horse, and it wasn't a long course. It's probably 8 fences. And, and for you and me, they're shockingly huge fences. But for these people, they're like, oh, trot poles. So, and literally the guys are all sitting around there. The guys are in hoodies or sweatshirts or whatever. And, and everyone's just looking super casual. Like they could have had like cigarettes hanging out of their mouths. Like they were just all looking like, whatever, here we are jumping around. I watched every single horse. One horse lost focus. And it was interesting because the guy lost focus for a second. One horse.
Interesting.
And what happened was the guy lost focus for a second, or maybe he anticipated the horse losing focus. He went to canter towards the first jump, and the horse gave him a hard no. And I mean a hard no. The first jump was heading away from the exit, away from the entrance to the arena, which is also the exit. And he gave him a hard no and went to not stand up, but went to kind of back up a little bit. Mm-hmm. And the guy asked him to go forward, no whip, no, not like spurring him and kicking him, just asked him to go forward. The horse gave another hard no. The guy turned directions, did not jump a fence, cantered away from the entrance in a totally different direction, cantered around the arena away from the, to and from the exit, just getting the horse over the nappiness, jumped a few fences towards the exit.
Okay, yeah.
And then turned around and jumped the original fence.
Okay.
And I just thought, and zero drama, fabulous horsemanship, thinking like a horse. Do you know what I mean? I would have, because I get, scared or emotional or whatever, I would have had a little war with the horse because it wasn't going away from the entrance. He didn't. He just was like, oh, you know what? It got a little nervous this direction. Whatever, it'll be fine tomorrow. Turned around, cantered it the other way. It totally got over it, jumped beautifully. And he gave it this sense of confidence that, tomorrow it'll be fine. Wow. It was so good. It was such good horsemanship, such good riding.
That's awesome.
And then other than that, in the whole time these jumpers were jumping, I think 2 people had poles. Like,
isn't that amazing? Yeah, it's amazing.
The rest of them totally jumped clean.
They jumped everything.
Really?
Wow.
They jumped everything. No one missed, it's not like anyone's missing a spot at that level. Even people who, are from countries where they don't necessarily do a huge amount of show jumping, everyone just rode great. Then the vaulting. So I teach, as I don't know if we've ever talked about this before, but I teach dressage to one of the top vaulting riders in the country. So I get to see some vaulting when he, I used to keep a horse. I used to keep exact at the same stable he ran a club out of. And that was just, jaw dropping to watch. And he's a gold medal vaulter. And so, I get to see some vaulting, but I don't get to see vaulter after vaulter after vaulter at world class levels. Unfortunately, the French didn't come. I guess that the kind of the top 2 French vaulters, I guess, retired. And, they are just, it's kind of like the Germans for dressage, right? They're just really good.
Right. They're the top.
They're the group. But it was super interesting. There was a lot of Germans, one Dutch, not a ton of vaulters came. And I would say half of the countries that did come brought horses with them and the other half did not. So they're riding on horses, they're standing up and doing backflips off of horses. They don't know.
They don't know. Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy.
And right. So the whole thing's crazy anyway. And And a reminder, no helmets and no shoes. They're in basically ballet slippers.
Oh.
And, and it's very different. You know how to sit. It's different to sit a trot on different horses. Imagine standing on different horses' butts and necks and doing handstands on them. And every single one of them, and I've seen this with the guy who I know, every single one of them had beautiful horsemanship. So if the horse gets a little nervous when they get up, because the horses aren't used to their routines either, right? So the horses got a little nervous. They just kind of slide back down, pat the horse on the neck, pat the horse on the butt. They spend half their time patting the horses. And there was this one guy who does, as part of his routine, and of course, as all three of us can totally do, he just jumps from one side to the other of the horse. He doesn't touch it; he just jumps over it. He holds the little thing. It's not like he's just running, and so he's essentially leaping over the horse with his legs while he's holding on with his hands, and he makes it look like I do that every day. Maybe he does.
Yeah.
Maybe he does. Yeah.
So the first day he was on this horse, and he did not do that in the warm-up day. I saw him yesterday because they do their schooling in the middle of the trade show, which is also fascinating. And I saw him doing it on the horse the next day. I think it was the same horse, and by that time the horse had gotten used to him. So they did spend this time, real horsemanship time. And by the way, they also make mistakes, especially on horses you don't know, like when you're, because with the pas de deux, when your buddy is lifting you over his or her head, on a horse that where you don't know their canter gait. Sometimes the horse gets a little nervous. So we had one horse who actually it was like, you don't seem stable up there. I'm halting.
Okay.
Yeah.
You look like you might fall off. I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop because I think you might fall off. And it was great to watch. And the level of horsemanship was great. And then to see them the next day during the trade fair on, again, these horses who now had a little more confidence in their vaulters or their riders, and to watch it all get to smooth out the next day. And I didn't stay for today. There was the first day of competitive vaulting was today, but I am going to go, assuming that this sinus infection doesn't get worse. I'm going to go tomorrow night for the freestyle, and then stay Saturday for the vaulting and jumping, and come home Sunday.
Founded in 1973, the United States Dressage Federation has become the largest organization to represent a single Olympic equestrian discipline. At nearly 30,000 members strong, USDF is your connection to dressage education, competition, and achievement. Visit usdf.org to learn more about USDF education, competition and award programs, and to shop our online store. Again, that's usdf.org, your online destination for dressage.
So Patty, let's talk about the Grand Prix. Let's talk about what happened yesterday.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So interestingly, I would say nobody was riding at their very, very best, except for Delario was amazing. But even her, she cantered down the center line, halted, saluted, and backed up a bit.
Right, and she didn't hit 80%. She was close. She was a 79.9 in the Grand Prix. Close, but didn't quite hit it.
Right,
and a bummer.
Didn't quite hit it. But it was beautiful and supple. And to watch her crossing and the half passes are amazing. She is classically uphill. So she is uphill with her pull the highest part a little bit open in the throat latch in a nice way. And, that kind of sense of being ridden on a thread, on a silk thread, that's the sense you get with her, even though she's powerful. It was lovely, lovely to watch. There were, I would say, a bunch of people had errors they probably don't normally have. A few people had halts in the first piaffe, which is, always sad when that happens.
Yes.
And a couple of people had halts on the center line in the piaffe. We've all discussed the Grand Prix before. The problem is you spend years and years halting them at X. And then they're supposed to piaffe at X, and they're like, that just seems silly. So
I'm not trained to do that.
A couple of those. Yeah, that's, for years you've been telling me something else. So even at this level, a couple of people had that as an issue. also in these venues where the audience is so close and above the horses, it's pretty spooky for the horses.
Yes.
And, so you guys have been in Wellington, obviously, for the season. And, when you turn to come to do that first piaffe, you're heading to an audience, right? If you're in their big arena, but the audience is fairly far away. That is not true inside a convention center.
Yeah, you're right there. Yeah, they're
right there, and
arena,
maybe
they can't go around that ring, right, Patty? Like that
correct,
ring,
they can't go around the ring.
They have to. There's not enough room.
Yeah.
That's how tight it is. It's almost the width of the dress. Well, they can't.
It's a little bit bigger. The one in Vegas, the one in Vegas, this one at least you could put flowers in and the letters. And by the way, and I was taken aside to remind you, there were 7 judges. So there are 7 judges booths, 7, plus there's the supervisory panel, who I think are not actually, they're not in the arena, but they have the ability to watch on video and things if something really goes wrong. And so, that's a lot of judges plus scribes. So there's a lot of stuff going on. So if I were to guess, at least one of the horses who sort of quit in the first piaffe, if I were to guess, she was just like, I don't know what's going on up over there, but I'm a little concerned about it.
Sure. Yeah. Valid. And that was a younger horse too, wasn't it? It's a young horse. He's never been there before.
It was Serenade. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was
Alice's horse.
And she's 10. Yeah. She's, it's I assume an early 10 because it's only April. So,
yes, exactly.
She a little bit had that look. It was she's such a beautiful horse and so supple and so amazing. And Alice, again, just a beautiful, beautiful rider. But I think it's hard, it's hard when they get a little distracted, again, unless you're Isabel and just, put those legs on and they do what you say. But most people, most regular humans, that can become a little harder. So, and especially if your type of riding is a more supple, more soft riding. So anyway, that happened to a couple of folks. Interestingly, although all of them had practiced the halt and most of them had practiced the rein back, there was more than a couple of people who did 6 steps instead of 5.
Interesting.
And there were a couple of people who were actually a little crooked in the rein back. And where you think, and several people, and thank God, because this happened to me recently, more than once, several people come down the center line for the pirouettes, and their horses did one-time changes before the first pirouette.
Oh.
Which means which means they're getting a 5 on the pirouette, even though the pirouettes are beautiful. So a couple of people got 5s or got 5.5 or whatever on the first pirouette because of a mistake coming down the center line, not in the pirouette itself.
Right.
And as somebody who had that happen in the Grand Prix recently, I felt really bad for them.
Yeah. And Patty, you did the spectator judging, right? Because that was new for you.
I did the spectator judging.
Yeah, that
was new for me. So here's the upside. If you have that app, you can see score by score how the average judges score, right? So you can see what they gave for a halt, what they gave for a walk, what they gave for, whatever. That was super interesting. And then for me, I could see 2 things. One is one thing I know about myself, which is I feel so bad when something goes wrong. I tend to be a little generous. And as a judge, I'm never, I'm not scared to give 9s and 10s. And there weren't that many 9s and 10s in this, by any of the judges, which I thought was super interesting.
Right.
And again, we only saw the combined scores, but when most people, when the best are getting 8s and 8.5s, that means that they're, no one's giving, it's not like you're getting 4 of them giving 10s.
Right.
And I'll tell you, it was like, really, how much better can that get? There was a little bit of that. Yeah. They also, unless there was something truly disastrous, they were not going as low as I think that some of them should. So there was one horse who has a quite lateral walk. The extended walk, I would have given it a solid 5 at training level. Like, it just is, it walks like a camel with tension. So great. And then its collected walk is not great either. And, and I think it got a 5.6 or something on the collected walk and a 6.5 on the extended walk. And I was like, really? Because the legs on each side move exactly together. And, but
no V forming in the
there, no V. There would be zero V. So, and that was just, that was Isabel's horse. I mean, by the way, everything else is spectacular, but it's, the walk is a little bit gnarly. But then again, she is who she is.
Right.
So,
she gets the reputation. She gets a reputation mark there.
If I were to guess, but everything else, she deserved what she got. Do you know what I mean? Like everything else, she, there is not a point she leaves on the table. Not one. Every corner is perfect. Everything is letter to letter. There's just, everything is in rhythm. The frame is spectacular. Okay. So they gave her a little too high on the extended walk, in my opinion, okay. Whatever.
Yeah. Well,
I don't think it would have made a difference in the placing.
Right. And she truly is amazing at what she does and how she does it. Like, it's unbelievable. So, she was second.
And especially since, she's second. And especially since, for me, having seen her in the warm-up, it was all a little bit too cowboy. It was a little bit rougher than I felt super comfortable with. But my God, she gets in that show arena and it's soft and fabulous and obedient, and the horse has its ears up and is looking to do the next thing for her. And just amazing. She's an amazing competitor.
That's also not the most experienced horse that she's on either.
Yeah.
Just make counterpoints, to be on Isabel's side.
Look, everybody has. Yeah. Look, I mean, it's not the biggest, most supple mover I've seen her on either, but she rides everything. Like, she's been at every type of horse and gotten them into international, with it as a medalist in international competition.
Yeah.
It's pretty remarkable. So
that's why she's the goat.
So far be it for me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Patty, tell us about the Danish rider, Nana Mirald. I don't know this rider at all. Tell us a little bit about her. She was third.
Again, she sits like a goddess. It wasn't one I liked quite as much as the judges did, because again, what do I know? But what seemed to be the key for all of these, and this goes back to the spectator scoring, because you can see what the judges are giving.
Yeah.
Like, I would have had Stefan above that horse, not, even, because it was so soft and everything was so solid and so lovely. But he's getting, again, you can look at the scoring thing to see it. He's getting kind of 7.5, 7.5, 7.5, 7.5 on everything. If you're not getting 8s on that Piaffe Passage Tour, you're not in the top few. And I mean the whole way through that Piaffe Passage Tour, because people were ahead of him, and I'll just use him as a kind of gating person because, he's my friend. And, people were ahead of him who had some pretty major errors, like doing flying changes before the first pirouette, or this wonderful, wonderful Dutch horse called Titanium. What's its full name? Had broken 2 extended trots, and I mean broke. And, presumably was getting, and I think I looked up, was getting, 4s or whatever on it. But who cares? The thing gets 8s and 8.5s in its whole Piaffe Passage Tour. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's phenomenal. It's 11 years old. It's fabulous. Wow. And, it's a little, it has sort of mechanical looking extended trot. And my guess is, again, it's a younger horse, and it was probably a little blown away by the arena. Yeah. But it just fires off the ground in diagonal pairs in the Piaffe and in the Passage and in the transitions. And it's like, okay, the walk isn't quite as good as you'd like, and the pirouettes aren't as soft, and okay, sure. But that is a lot of the score. Wow.
Right.
So right. People who had some fairly large errors in non-Piaffe Passage things, missing ones or whatever, still were hugely up there. Yeah. And I would say that there was one, I think it may have been Delaria, who started both. You can look on the video and tell me if I'm right or wrong, because it's on. There's her ride is online. The first change in the 1s and the first change in the 2s was not together behind, was a little bit shorter behind, and then the rest were lovely. I mean, huge and lovely and expressive. And the flying change scores were good for sure, but not as good as presumably they normally are. And I may be getting which horse it was wrong. But when you go from that, you're getting, 8 to 8.5s on the whole Piaffe Passage tour, or 9.
She was getting, I have the scores pulled up. Patty, she was more like, she was in the 10 range. She had 9, 5, 10, 10, 10, then 2 8s. But she was up in the 10 range, like for a
at
lot
least for some of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're like, oh, okay.
No, it was it was beautiful. It was beautiful.
Yeah. Her last center line,
to watch.
It's incredible. 9s, 10s on the Piaffe, 10s on the transition, 9s on the Passage, and then 8, 9, 5 on the halt.
Well,
so
I'm just saying when they changed the Piaffe, they doubled the coefficients on the Piaffe and things like that. That's a strategy from the judges deciding that's what we're going to heavily weight. So you can't be surprised, when you get, when you double the Piaffe marks, that's what people train for.
Counts a lot.
That's what wins, right? So,
right.
Well, and I don't know how you guys feel, but I did listen to an interview with Isabel Wert after Aachen when we were there. It was like a German interview, and she was talking about how you have to have the horses for the Piaffe and Passage to be like that, and how difficult it is in regards to flying changes, for example, because they're so electric from the Piaffe Passage that, because Isabel was known, especially with Bella Rose, one of her, most famous horses. She said that multiple times. I actually read that, I think, in her book as well. Like, she talks about it, and you're like, well, that makes total sense, because just the way the horses have to be. And then you add in some of those horses aren't used to being, and Delaria, she, because her rider Jessica had a baby this summer, she has not competed much internationally. She didn't go to the WEG because her rider had a baby literally that week in the WEG. So she hasn't been out that much. So it's not, I don't think it's that surprising to hear that she had some mistakes there.
But it was, not one mistake. If I were to say one mistake, it was really the canter in and halt was the only mistake. Everything else may not be as perfect as she usually does, but it was stunning.
Looks like she settled down.
So the one who I thought I liked a lot was Ingrid Klimke's horse, whose name I'm with.
Franciscus.
And it just before we got online, I was, just doing more perusing. They just withdrew him, which is a bummer. They said that I was going to ask, we didn't ask off air. So ask on air. Did you see, they said in one of the extensions, he took a bad step or something, and they withdrew him today, which was a real bummer. Cause that is awesome.
Oh, that is a real bummer, because he looked great. I can tell you that if he ended up hurting himself, it wasn't apparent in the rest of the test. So, it looked great and so solid. Here's one other thing that they were all was so solid on the bit. Do you know what I mean? Like, the connection in every horse was so good. And, no bobbling, no nothing. And I would say that one may have been one of the best in terms of just being, again, ridden into this very classical uphill frame. And, just lovely. Well, that's a bummer, because, a couple of people had dropped out. Hermes isn't going either.
Right. They had a couple horses. Yeah, they had a couple drop out. Yeah. And it looks like there were a couple withdrawals. Or eliminations or withdrawals.
Hermes was withdrawn. Hermes was part of the draw. Was supposed to compete on Wednesday and then didn't. And look, horses get hurt. It's just
it is what it is. And
a foal is born and spends Well, and a foal is born and spends the rest of his life trying to commit suicide. I came back home and found some of the bars on the horses' stalls kicked out. I'm like, seriously, guys.
Really?
I now have to have a welder come and fix it, so.
Oh my goodness.
Because I don't know, somebody was bucking in their stall and thought that double barreling the side of the stall was a good idea. Like, horses do stuff.
They do. They do.
Yeah.
Well, Patty, thank you so much for this wrap up. This was so cool. A little behind the scenes of what was going on there. And we hope you aren't sick, so you can come back and tell us how the freestyle went. But if anybody has questions or want to find you online, how do they do that?
Okay. So I'm on Facebook, although not as often as I should be. And then, so it's Patty Mayer. And then my phone number, so if anyone wants to text, is 310-729-3365. And my email is bailiwickhouse@gmail.com. B for boy, AILIWICKHOUSE@gmail. And thank you so much for having me. It's super fun.
We love it when you did the whole wrap up was awesome. Thanks, Patty. And we hope you feel okay and can go back on Friday.
Thanks. Okay. Talk to you later.
This is Sophia Agena.
I'm Casey Wilbanks-Coletti.
And I'm Mike Donnell. We're here to tell you about OWISA, the Western and English Sales Association, and its podcast, Wisdom by OWISA.
WESA produces the world's largest trade events for retailers, manufacturers, and sales representatives in the equestrian industry.
On our show, we talk to people who tell the stories of some of the best-known Western and equestrian brands.
Visit wisdombywesa.com and tune in today.
Well, for tonight's trainer tip, we're thrilled to have Anna Buffini on the line. She's going to the World Cup to represent the United States. And this is a tip she didn't even tell us before. This is a secret tip. Anna, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I'm thrilled. I want a drum roll because this is a secret. You've not told anyone this. So it's an exclusive. So it's our first exclusive, Phil, in 10 years. This is fun. All right, Anna, what do you got for us?
Okay. My tip is about a throughness for the flying changes, because let me tell you, when I was warming up to try and qualify for the World Cup, Davinia, my mare, did not do 1-2 tempi in the warm-up.
Stop it.
Not
Come
one.
on.
Not one at all.
No.
I could not get them to save my life.
Just getting ones.
You just got, okay.
We were just getting one tempi.
What'd you do? I mean, that is slightly terrifying. And you're under the lights. There's thousands of people watching. What'd you do?
Mm-hmm.
Like now I'm intrigued.
Yep. So obviously with my mastermind trainer, Gunther, who's been in these situations before, essentially we got just down to the base of it, that her back was tight from nerves and I did not have her through enough. So basically we kind of put her on some circles. We put her on bending lines. We went a little forward and back in the canter, got her more over the back. I put her pull, like in my mind, I kind of just thought an inch lower. It didn't go an inch lower, but in your head, if you think the horse's head can just go a little lower to get him a little more through, but still connected him forward, she started bringing her back up. And then right before I went in, I kept her pull steady and didn't let it come up, because a lot of times the horses like to come up in the changes. And Gunther was like, do not let her head come up. Keep her through, keep her back up. So I kept her back up the entire time and I sat in and I just thought in my brain to keep her pull just a centimeter lower to keep her over her back. And we got some twos as we were going in the arena. And then I did the exact same thing in the test and we nailed them. So make sure, if you are not getting your tempis, keep that back up, keep them through, and make sure they are really, really not throwing the head up in those changes.
So, okay, this is amazing. But my other question is, how did you stay calm? Because this happens,
It'd be a freak out.
Yeah, I mean, this is the time that, you could easily take a turn to freaking out. So how did you stay calm in this situation? Because that's really scary. So what'd you do? How'd you stay calm?
It was very difficult. I think in the back of my head, I was so determined. In the back of my head, I was like, 35 minutes, I wasn't getting 2 tempis. And I was just like, I'm going to get them. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to get them. I'm going to keep trying. And I just, over and over, I just said that to myself. And I truly believed in my heart that I was going to get them no matter what, as she was not getting them. But
just a quiet confidence then. Yeah.
Calm
exactly.
confidence.
You got to trust your trainer. You got to trust your training. And in the end too, like, I've done this before. I figured it out. And also I've made enough mistakes in the 2 tempis that now my toolbox is so much bigger to pull from in the test. Like if this happened 3 years ago, guaranteed I'm missing the 2s. I don't make it to World Cup. But now I have gone through enough shows. I have gone to enough freestyles where I did them successfully, and I've gone through enough where I've missed them. So I was just like, I've done this before. I figured it out before. I'm going to get this. And then Gunter gives me those tips on throughness. I get her through, and then I make sure I don't forget that in the test, because a lot of times you forget it. You throw it away in your test. You're like, you know what? No. I'm just going to go back to whatever I was doing before and be safe and hope I get them. And I took a risk on trusting the training that we just made a breakthrough in, and I stuck with it, and we got it.
Good. But I think that's, I mean, you are in probably the most stressful dressage situation this year for sure, qualifying for the World Club. I mean, that's really, but I mean, I've had this happen in the warm up for regionals or even at a horse show where it's a little colder or, so I think that's really that calm confidence is what people should really take, myself included. Like, we got this, we have tools, we have trained, we know what to do. And I think that's really the amazing part of what you're telling all of us is, that's terrifying, right? But you were able to you had a process and tools to get through it. And I think that that's really amazing and fascinating and something, that you would visualize, you had pre-games, you knew what to do. And so you were able to kind of go through that moment. And I think that's really incredible, but also so important for people to think about as you're going through. So I think that's just an amazing part of your tip, which is calm confidence. You knew what to do in that situation, which is cool.
Yeah, exactly. And even if, no matter like how hard it's getting, Gunter's just drilled into me, like, don't train emotionally. So no matter what your horse is throwing at you, chances are it's tense and tight. So if you are reacting to the horse and you're getting frustrated, it's just going to make it worse. So regardless, if you get it or not, keep giving your horse confidence, keep giving your horse calmness through it. And that is going to give you such a better chance of getting it.
Yeah, I love it. Well, Anna, you're amazing. And it was a great tip. And we want to wish you good luck at the World Cup. And we are going to follow you and we'll watch for your calm confidence, because now we have the secret and we know what may happen and how you're going to handle it. So good luck, Anna. This is a great tip and we wish you all the best.
Thank you so much.
Well, Phil, as always, we love to hear from everybody with email and Facebook shout outs. They make our day and we love questions. We'll keep trying to get those in the queue or get those questions answered. But we have a very exciting update. We have a new book club, Phil. Should we do a drum roll?
You want a drum roll?
Ready? That's all we got.
Okay.
All right. So we have the Sport Horse Problem Solver. What works, what doesn't, and how to make it all better by Eric Smiley. And you can find this book at horseandriderbooks.com. They're a great partner with us. And we are looking forward to this. I just got home and I was really excited. I undid the books from Martha at horseandriderbooks.com. I was really, really excited, Trafalgar Square. And so get your book. Again, Eric Smiley, The Sport Horse Problem Solver. What works, what doesn't, and how to make it better. The United States Dressage Federation is your connection to dressage education, competition, and achievement. Visit usdf.org for more information. That's www.usdf.org, the online destination for dressage. You can find our show notes and links to today's guests on our page at horseradionetwork.com. Like us on Facebook, just search Dressage Radio Show. Follow us on Twitter at Horse Radio. My website is maplecrestfarmky.com and my email is reese@horseradionetwork.com.
I think the best place to find me is probably on Facebook, or my email is philip@horseradionetwork.com. I'd like to thank our sponsors this week for allowing us to put on a good show. That's Kentucky Performance Products. If you'd like to support our show and the Horse Radio Network, you can do that through the Auditor program found at horseradionetwork.com.
Everybody, keep your heels down and your shoulders back, and we will talk to you next week.